In this video, I'm going to show you a super easy way to take in a dress. These techniques I'm going to show you are very versatile and can be used with a lot of different types of dresses. For this project, you're going to need scissors, a seam ripper, pins, thread, and measuring tape. You're going to start by taking your dress and unstitching the armholes. Whenever I'm making alterations to a garment, I like to unstitch most of the finishing seams, and this makes it a little easier. I'm going to do the same for both of the armholes. The goal of this project is to take in the dress, but I'm going to start by showing you a technique on how to shorten it. This works best when the dress you have has a detail that you want to keep, so you're just going to cut off that detail, leaving a seam allowance on the top. If your dress doesn't have a detail, you can also just do a regular hem and skip this step. Now before we reattach the hem, we're going to place the dress on a mannequin or on yourself if you don't have a mannequin, and start doing pinnings on the seams. It's important that when you're taking in a dress to even out the distribution of how much fabric you're taking in. In my case, I have 2 side seams, 2 darts in the front, and 2 darts in the back, and I'm going to take in fabric from all of those different seams. I'm going to do the pinning on just one of the sides of my dress, and then using my measuring tape, I'm going to measure out how much fabric I took in from each seam and do the exact same on the other seams. So I'm going to create a mirror image with all of my pinnings, matching my side seams together, again using my measuring tape, matching how much I took in on the front darts and how much I took in on the back darts. This part can take a little bit of time, but just make sure that you're patient and make sure that everything's equal. In my case, my dress has a lining, so I'm going to have to do the exact same steps for the seams of the lining as well. When repinning seams, it's important that the pins are creating a smooth line on the garment. Any abrupt angles will really show through on the other side. And now you're going to sew along on every seam that you just pinned. Before I trim away any of the excess fabric, I like to try the dress on and make sure that I've made no mistakes. So it's normal that before you cut away the extra fabric, that your fabric is puckering a little because of all the excess. In my case, there's quite a bit of gathering in the sleeve as well, which I'm going to deal with at a later step. Because I'm happy with all my side seams, I'm now ready to hem the dress. Again, you can hem this regularly, or you can do the technique, which is reattaching the hem that already exists just on a higher point of the dress. All this technique is repinning it right sides together. This creates a really clean finish because you're using the detail that already exists from the original dress. It's important to use your measuring tape at this step as well to make sure that you're placing it equally along the bottom of the dress. When making adjustments to an already existing garment, I like to leave all the cutting until the end. That's why I'm leaving all that fabric on the bottom of the hem just in case I want to make any adjustments later. And here I'm just pinning the 2 ends of my hem together to fit the new width of my dress. Once you're all done pinning it and making sure that it lies flat, you should try on the dress, and then once you like the fit, you can cut the excess. The first stitch we want to sew is the one that's making sure that our old hem is fitting the new hem of the dress. And then we're just going to sew around where we pinned along the hem of the dress, trimming away any excess fabric as we go. And then here is us attaching the hem to the dress, again placing right sides together. You can then trim away any more excess fabric to reduce bulk. Because my dress has a lining, I'm going to show you how you would just do a regular fold over hem as well. So there's the one with the detailing, and this one I just folded over twice and ironed and then sewed with a straight stitch. Now we're going to move back to our side seams that we sewed earlier. Again, it's important that the seams that we sewed have no points and align smoothly with the seams that already existed on the dress. We can then trim away any of the excess fabric from those seams, which will help the dress lie a lot more flat. Depending if your fabric frays, you may want to finish these edges. I like to do this with a zigzag stitch. When doing the zigzag stitch, it's important that your needle goes over one side of the fabric to really lock in those threads. Now moving back to our hem, I'm going to do that same zigzag stitch for that as well. Again, this is fabric dependent, but you may want to do a top stitch to make sure that you're really locking in the direction which the hem is going to lie. With cotton and linen, it's likely that if you just iron it, it'll stay in place. But if you have another fabric, maybe a synthetic, you might want to do a top stitch to lock in that seam allowance. The final step is to add the elastic to the sleeves. This step is optional and really depends on the type of dress that you're working on. I like to use this technique when the sleeves are gaping or just aren't fitting right. The first step is to decide what type of elastic you're going to use. I decided on going with a plain elastic and cut it just to the length that fit comfortably around the upper part of my arm, including a 2 cm seam allowance. And then using a zigzag stitch, I'm going to sew that piece of elastic together. I'm now ready to attach it to my sleeve. The way my dress is made, it had a strange facing already in place, so it made it a lot easier to insert the elastic. Grabbing a scrap piece of fabric as well, I wanted to show you what it would look like if you were working with a raw edge. All you're doing is folding it over and placing the piece of elastic underneath the fabric. So with our fabric folded over, our elastic underneath the fabric, we're going to do a zigzag top stitch on the top side of the dress, as in the right side of the dress, pulling our elastic slightly as we sew. The only thing is, because this is a top stitch, you can't see the elastic as you sew, so you just want to make sure that your stitch is catching the elastic on the back side of the fabric. And you're all done! Thank you for watching, and if you liked the video, please subscribe.